Hello and welcome to the Nissan 370Z, a car that actually I'm slightly concerned I'm not going to like very much, and let me explain why. First up, the power, 330 brake horsepower, 270 Newton meters. Now those numbers might have been okay back in 2009 when these cars were new, but the game's kind of moved on since then. Those are hot hatch numbers these days. For the same kind of money, you could have something like a Mustang GT, 415 brake horsepower, 100 or so foot-pound more torque, not to mention a more modern design as well. In 2009, it was such a long time ago in car terms. Undeniably, the tech is going to be getting a little bit dated. An 11-year production run, well, it's quite long. Now, here's what I keep coming back to, and that is, if you're okay with this level of power output and having a slightly older design, then why wouldn't you consider something a little bit more honed, a little bit more lightweight, like a Porsche Cayman, for example? For me, the 370 kind of falls into this uncomfortable niche, but, and it is a huge but, I haven't driven it yet, and as any of us know, you cannot define a car by what's written on a piece of paper, so let's do it now. So right away then, what are we noticing? Well, seating position is really important in a car of this type. You sit pretty low, looking out over that sports car symbolistic long bonnet. It's quite nice actually. Interior wise, pretty unsurprisingly, it reminds me a lot of my GTR, so it's sufficiently nice. Certainly not going to be as nice as the German rivals though. However, let's hit the road, that's what it's all about. So right away, as you can probably hear, this 370Z is not standard. Don't worry, it's not completely modified to the point where I can't give an opinion on a standard 370Z. It is just some exhaust work and a remap. So what we've got here is probably up by about 15 brake horsepower and about 15,000 decibels. So let's talk about the engine first, and this is the first big surprising component of this car for me. Forget about the power for a moment. It's personable and it's intuitive. Now it's personable because despite its shortcomings in our contemporary turbocharged world, it's just so eager to please. I need to keep those revs down so you can actually hear me. You can liken the engine a bit to your family dog. He might be a bit chubby, he might be a bit overweight, but throw him some stick and watch him go just to please you. It's also quite intuitive because there's a strange familiarity to that linear power curve. Mid-range is where it's at in this car. We know it's not got an awful lot of low-down torque, and top end it's probably going to run out of puff a little bit, but that mid-range is absolutely the sweet spot. So here's the next nice surprise about the 370Z, and that is it's got a level of agility to it that I just was not expecting. Even although it's almost 1,500 kilos, it's just ready and willing to change direction at any time. It's just got this natural balance to it, and it really does feel very good around these back roads. So suspension wise, we've got double wishbones up front and it's a multi-link on rear. So it is actually quite a grown-up premium suspension setup, and it shows. Now what I especially like about it is that it's got that level of agility, but it doesn't resort to being too firm. It's very easy for manufacturers to make suspension or make cars that have got a level of agility like this, but in turn are very, very firm. Here in the UK, where our roads are far from perfect, it's good to have that level of suppleness to give it the compliance on these rougher roads. So steering, it's refreshingly active actually. Okay, it's no Lotus Elise, but in a world where we've kind of normalised these overly assisted limited feedback racks that we get on most modern cars, it's certainly got a bit of life to it. Loads up nicely in bends too, without being heavy all the time. A heavy steering rack all the time just becomes tiresome, it's not what you want. But this is a pretty good compromise. I think I'm going to be eating those words in the intro pretty hard, pretty soon. Finally, let's talk gearbox. Short throw, sturdy engagement, feels quite muscle car-esque. And what it is practically a perfect metaphor for this car as a whole. Because it's not absolutely cutting edge, it's not absolutely rapid, but it is so enjoyable for what it is, just like this car as an overall item. It kind of brings all the constituent elements of this car together and makes the package make sense. It's not a car that you take out and drive at 10/10 all the time. If you go into it looking for a mini GTR, you might be left feeling a little bit cold because it's not got the technical wizardry, it's not got the astounding performance figures. But what it is a much more analog, back to basics driving experience. And I don't think anyone can knock that. So one thing I think is really important to do in these videos is get the owner included and get their opinion, because at the end of the day, they've been living with the car for years. We've only driven it a handful of times, so almost always they give us a wee bit more insight than what we're able to provide. So let's do that now. All right, so Fraz, thanks so much for joining us and lending us the car today. First up, what kind of person do you think the 370Z suits?
I think you're probably going to want to have shares in BP if you're going to be the type of person that's going to own this. But apart from that, it's going to be somebody that's not overly interested in speed. It's not the fastest car in the world. It's more about the enjoyment of driving, about handling. And if you're the kind of guy that likes to tune your cars, you know, do different modifications, not necessarily for speed, but for aesthetics, or you know, if you like a wee bit of bangs and flames, that kind of thing, maybe this car's for you.
So obviously you're one of those people, you went out and bought one of these, Fraz, so has it been everything that you wanted it to be? Has it fell short in any areas at all?
I would say that it's been everything I wanted and more.
Right, okay.
When I bought it, I was a wee bit disappointed in the noise, and there was a few little bits that I thought, do you know what, it needs to change. But that is the joy of this car, that's what it's all about. So I went online, spare parts, extra parts are easily available. So first thing I thought, dated head unit, changed that, no bother, wasn't even that expensive. Exhaust system, the problem with this car is it's marketed towards older generations in Japan and it's available so everyone could drive it, so very quiet. It's a very particular car. A lot of people now, they just want that instant speed from your DSG, Golf Rs,
turbos,
yeah. You know, this is a very different experience. You've got to drive this car, and also you've got to drive this car like it's going to kill you, because the back end will slip away. It's not got all those safety nets that all your Golfs and your Audis and all that sort of stuff that we're used to seeing in the car scene is got. This doesn't have. This is old school. So if you think, you know, you do want that raw experience, then yeah, I do recommend it to you.
At the beginning of this video, I genuinely didn't think I was going to like the 370Z. Just a bit too heavy, too slow, too dated. But what we have here is a perfect reminder that 80% of what makes a car enjoyable cannot be found in its figures alone. Now, if you've made it this far, please do remember to hit subscribe, turn on the bell notification, and I'll see you on the next video.